This happened a few months ago. I was 34, working as a freelance delivery driver to pay the bills. After my breakup, I took night shifts to keep my mind busy. I had driven Route 47 countless times, familiarizing myself with the dark, winding roads and the few scattered homes. Most nights were quiet, just the hum of my engine and the occasional flicker of distant lights. I've never stopped thinking about what I saw. I remember that night clearly. It was late, around 2 in the morning. I gripped the steering wheel tightly, trying to shake off the chill creeping into my bones. Everything seemed normal, until I saw the figure. It was just a flash at the edge of a field as my headlights swept past. I dismissed it as my imagination playing tricks on me. Maybe it was just a tree or a shadow. But an uneasy feeling settled in my stomach. For the next few nights, things took a weird turn. I saw that figure again, lingering around different spots on Route 47. Each time, my heart raced harder, and I struggled to focus on the road. It felt like I was being watched. I kept glancing in the rearview mirror, half expecting to see someone following me, but each time, the road was empty. Maybe I was just imagining things. After all, it was just me in the dark. As the nights went on, strange messages began to pop up on my phone. They didn't make any sense, bits of words mixed with random numbers. I thought maybe it was spam, but deep down I wasn't sure. Each delivery felt heavier, as if I carried an invisible weight. I felt cold sweats every time I pulled up to a house. Was someone tracking me? Then it happened. I was delivering to a lonely farmhouse. The driveway was overgrown, and the porch light flickered. I stepped out of my car, feeling uneasy. That's when I saw it, standing by a tree. The figure was just standing there, unmoving. I couldn't make out any details. My heart raced, and fear washed over me. I wanted to call out, but the words caught in my throat. I took a step back, pinned in place. Then it turned and walked away, slowly disappearing into the woods. I thought about getting back in my car, but my feet felt glued to the ground. Maybe I should have run, but I was terrified. I finally ripped my eyes away and jumped into my car. When I sat down and glanced in the mirror, my heart dropped. There was no one behind me, but I could still feel that presence. I turned the ignition, my hands shaking, hoping to escape whatever was happening. Then my phone beeped again. Hesitating, I looked. The message was clear, chilling. You can't run from me. It felt like the figure was taunting me as I raced down the road, adrenaline pumping. Would I ever be free from this terror? Route 47 felt different now, haunted. I just wanted to get home. But the figure lingered in my mind, and my heart raced. I didn't know if I could keep going. I made it home that night, but sleep was nearly impossible. I tossed and turned, trying to shake off the image of that figure standing in the darkness. Was it real, or just a figment of my mind? I didn't know, but every shadow in my room felt like a reminder of what I had seen. The next day, the sun shone brightly, washing away the night's horrors, but the fear clung to me. I tried to distract myself with mundane tasks, grocery shopping, laundry, but my focus was split. My phone buzzed again, another message. You think daylight makes you safe? I dropped the cereal box I held and glared at the screen. I couldn't escape it. My heart raced as I pressed the home button, but it didn't ease my sense of dread. That evening, I had another delivery scheduled. I hesitated, but knew I had bills to pay. I took a deep breath and set out. The sun was just disappearing behind the horizon, casting long shadows across Route 47. I felt uneasy, but I couldn't let fear rule my life. As much as I wanted to quit, I needed to push myself. As I drove, each bend in the road felt like a warning. The loneliness enveloped me like a blanket I couldn't shake off. But then, just past the old barn, I caught a glimpse of something in my peripheral vision. I looked left, hoping it was just a deer or some other harmless creature. Instead, it was there, the figure. This time, it was closer. I slammed on my brakes, the tires screeching. My heart pounded in my chest, and for a moment I sat frozen, staring. It was hard to make out any details, but I could see the outline more clearly now. The figure stood motionless, just beyond the edge of the road, watching. Panic surged within me, forcing me to grab my phone to document it. I snapped a quick photo, my hands trembling, praying that it would provide some evidence of what I was dealing with. Suddenly, my phone buzzed again, and I barely had time to focus on it. The new message sent chills down my spine. "You shouldn't have done that." I looked up from my phone, panic gripping my throat. The figure had moved. It was now closer, almost within reach. I threw my car into reverse, heart racing, desperate to escape. But before I could speed away, I heard it. A soft whisper that sent ice through my veins. "Come back." The voice was low, almost soothing, but I knew it meant danger. I pressed the gas hard, praying I didn't lose control. The figure receded in my rearview mirror, smaller with each passing second, but I could barely breathe. What was happening? Deep down, I knew I couldn't keep running. I needed to know what was behind those messages, what the figure wanted from me. As I rounded the final turn home, I spotted a flicker of light ahead. I instinctively felt drawn to it, like a moth to a flame. I knew I had to investigate, and as I pulled closer, I realized this was no ordinary light. It was coming from the same lonely farmhouse where I'd seen the figure before. I had a choice to make: turn back and say nothing, or confront whatever was waiting for me inside. I took a deep breath, the figure's whisper echoing through my mind. I turned off the engine, heart pounding, a new realization dawning on me. Something was waiting, and it was time to face it. I stepped out of the car, the cold night air biting at my skin. The light from the farmhouse flickered, casting eerie shadows that danced along the ground. My heart raced as I moved toward the entrance, each step heavier than the last. It felt wrong, like I was crossing a threshold into another world. I pushed open the creaking wooden door and held my breath. Inside, the silence enveloped me. I flicked my phone's flashlight on, illuminating the cramped foyer. Dust motes hung in the air, untouched by time. The light from my phone caught something on the side, the old rocking chair. It swayed slightly, as if someone had just gotten up from it. Unease gripped me. I stepped further inside, calling out, "Hello?" My voice bounced off the walls, mocking my fear. No response. I felt the urge to turn around, but something pulled me forward. What if the figure was in here? What if it was watching me now, just out of sight? As I peered into the dim living room, a soft thud drew my attention. My heart lurched. I moved cautiously toward the sound, my light darting around the room. Suddenly, I spotted it. A small table, a half-open book lying face down. I picked it up, my pulse quickening. The pages were yellowed with age, filled with crude drawings that made my stomach twist. Faces twisted in anguish, figures that looked like the ones I had seen in the dark. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. Someone had been here, not just recently, but for a long time. I flipped the pages quickly, desperate to find answers. And then it hit me. In the margin of one drawing, a phrase was scribbled: "Find the truth, or it will find you." Just as I was processing this, my phone buzzed vibrantly in the silence. The words flashed on the screen: "You're in my house." Panic set in, my breath coming in quick gasps. I spun around, heart pounding, but all I saw was darkness closing in around me. I was not alone. Running on instinct, I dashed for the door, but as I reached for the handle, it wouldn't budge. I yanked on it, feeling trapped. What was happening? A soft laugh echoed from the shadows, a sound that sent chills racing down my spine.
"Let's play a game," it whispered, the voice distinct and jeering. Then the lights flickered wildly and plunged me into darkness. In the pitch black, I felt a presence inching closer, and panic surged within me. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. I had come for answers, but all I found now was fear. In the depth of that dark, something cold touched my shoulder. I froze, my breath catching in my throat. I was paralyzed, caught between the fear of what I was facing and the unknown surrounding me. Suddenly, the lights returned, and I stumbled backward as the figure appeared right in front of me.
I couldn't make out its features, but those hollow eyes seemed to bore into my soul, demanding something I couldn't comprehend. Then everything went dark again. I gasped as the darkness swallowed me whole, but my senses sharpened in that cold void. I could hear my heartbeat echoing through my ears, a rhythmic reminder that I was still alive. I focused on the sound of my breath, steadying myself. I needed to find a way out. The lights flickered back on, illuminating the room in an eerie glow. The figure was gone. I felt a rush of relief, but it was short-lived. The unsettling atmosphere remained, thick and suffocating. I scanned the room again, my flashlight flickering. The rocking chair was still. The book lay undisturbed on the table. It felt wrong, like a moment frozen in time. I turned to the door, desperate to escape. It still wouldn't budge. I pushed and pulled, panic clawing at my throat. I could feel the shadows pressing in around me, a sinister reminder of what lurked in the dark. I slid to the floor, my back against the door. I had to think. Then I remembered the book. My mind raced as I grabbed it again, flipping through the pages. The drawings felt like they were watching me, each figure frozen in despair. I halted at the phrase again, "Find the truth, or it will find you." Who was this warning for? My fingers trembled as I turned more pages. One drawing stood out, depicting a grim figure standing over a silhouette that resembled me. A chill ran down my spine. I wasn't just here for answers. I was a part of whatever this was. What had I stumbled into? Suddenly, my phone buzzed again. Before I could react, it rang. I answered it quickly, hoping for a familiar voice. "Hello?" Static answered. Only static. The air changed around me. The temperature seemed to drop. That dreaded laugh echoed again, closer this time. I swallowed hard, the realization dawning on me. I wasn't alone, and whatever it was toying with me. "Who are you?" I shouted, my voice quaking. There was no reply, only a rush of footsteps. They echoed from somewhere deep within the house, closing in on me. There was no chance to escape the door. I had to find another way. Climbing to my feet, I rushed deeper into the darkness of the farmhouse. The living room seemed smaller now, the corners closing in. I moved to a doorway at the back. I stepped through, my light revealing a narrow hallway. Old photos hung on the walls. Faces in the pictures looked like something out of a nightmare. I felt their eyes following me, judging me, as if they knew me. Then I caught a glimpse of movement in the corner of the hall. My heart stuttered. "Who's there?" I yelled. Silence answered back, thick and heavy. Then, out of the shadows, a figure emerged. It was the same shape, the same empty eyes. But this time it stood closer, just a few feet away. "You shouldn't have come here," it whispered, the voice sending icy chills down my spine. That's when I saw it, the book I held. Somehow, it slipped from my fingers and landed at my feet. I stared at the book, frozen in place. The figure loomed over me, its empty eyes boring into mine. A wave of fear washed over me, and I instinctively reached for the book again. But it was too late. The figure stepped closer, darkness swirling around it like smoke. "Leave now, while you still can," it murmured, the voice a haunting echo in the stillness. I glanced past it, searching for an escape. Fear clawed at my insides, urging me to move. Mustering all my strength, I turned and bolted down the narrow hallway. My flashlight flickered wildly, casting shadows that danced like phantoms on the walls. I ran blindly, the sound of my heartbeat thundering in my ears. I burst through a door at the end of the hallway. It led to a dusty attic, cluttered with old furniture and trunks. My breath quickened as I surveyed the space, dimly lit by the feeble light streaming through a grimy window. The attic felt like a forgotten world, filled with cobwebs and layers of dust. Memories lingered in the air, and a shiver ran down my spine. I pressed myself against the wall, my pulse racing. I had to think, but the figure's warning echoed in my mind, gnawing at my sanity. "Think," I muttered to myself. "What does this mean?" My eyes caught on a trunk in the far corner, partially obscured by a pile of old blankets. It might hold something useful, something that could explain what was happening. I felt an odd pull toward it, like I was meant to find whatever lay inside. I stepped cautiously over to the trunk, each creak of the floorboards threatening to betray my presence. I knelt beside it, my hands trembling as I fumbled with the latch. With a click, it unlatched, and I lifted the lid slowly. Dust swirled into the air, catching the light in eerie patterns. Inside, I found a collection of colorful letters and photographs. I pulled out a battered envelope and opened it. The words inside were faded but legible, revealing a chilling story of loss and betrayal. A family once lived here, their lives intertwined with the darkness that now seemed to haunt me. One name caught my eye, Daniela. The letters described strange occurrences, just like what I had experienced. I flipped through the photos, my heart racing. There, in one picture, was the familiar figure, standing in the background, eyes glistening with menace. Suddenly, the temperature dropped further. Goosebumps erupted on my skin. I heard the noise of footsteps again, growing nearer. Fear clutched me like a vice. I slammed the trunk shut and looked around the attic, desperate for a place to hide. That's when I noticed a door at the far end. It seemed to beckon me. I picked up my flashlight and made a run for it. The heavy sound of footsteps was almost upon me, echoing against the wooden beams above. As I reached for the door, I hesitated. What waited on the other side? My heart raced as I turned the knob and pushed it open, praying for an escape. The darkness loomed ahead, thick and impenetrable. Then, everything went dark. I blinked, trying to adjust to the sudden darkness. My heart pounded in my chest, each beat a reminder of the urgency to escape. I took a step forward, feeling the cool, damp air wrap around me like a heavy blanket. My flashlight flickered, then sputtered, sending a pulse of anxiety twisting in my gut. I fumbled for my phone in my pocket, praying for its dim light, but it was dead. Come on," I whispered, forcing myself to stay calm. I moved carefully, feeling along the walls, trying to get a sense of my surroundings. I could hear the footsteps now, unmistakable and steady, echoing in the void behind me. I had to keep going. I couldn't let it catch me. I stumbled forward, my foot catching on something solid. I fell to my knees, my hands scraping against rough ground. Panic surged as I scrambled back to my feet. The footsteps were louder now, closer. Something was hunting me. "Daniela," I breathed, the name escaping my lips as I remembered the letters. If she had written about the figure, perhaps she knew how to confront it. I had to find out more, had to learn about her connection to this haunting presence. I pressed onward, hands outstretched, scanning for anything to guide me. Eventually, I reached a wall again, but this one felt different. Shifting my fingers along the surface, I felt an indentation. My heart raced. Could it be a door? I pushed against it, and, to my surprise, it creaked open. Light streamed from the opening, illuminating a narrow staircase. I could scarcely believe it. Could this be a way out? But the footsteps stopped abruptly. Silence swallowed the air. I glanced back, my gut instinct telling me I was being watched. "This isn't good," I muttered to myself. Ignoring the sinking feeling in my stomach, I climbed the stairs, flashlight in hand once more. The stairway spiraled upward, each step creaking under my weight. I paused at a landing, catching my breath, and looked around. What I saw made my blood run cold. Before me lay another room, a small office cluttered with papers and old furniture. I scanned it quickly, desperate. On the desk, a single folder was opened, the contents spread out haphazardly. I stepped inside, instinctively glancing back at the staircase, half expecting the figure to appear. I approached the desk, and my breath hitched when I saw a familiar face in one of the photographs. A young girl with bright eyes and a haunting smile. Below it was a name, Daniela. A chill raced up my spine. This girl was connected to everything I had seen. I grabbed the folder and sifted through more letters, all dated years ago, recounting tales of bizarre events and shadows chasing after a family that once lived here. But then I found it. A handwritten note stuffed between pages. "Stay away from the figure. It wants to possess you." My heart sank. I could feel it behind me, lurking. Then I heard it. A low, rumbling sound, like growling, coming from the staircase. I turned slowly, my grip tightening on the flashlight. That's when I saw it, an outline in the dark, moving closer. The eyes glimmered ominously, drawing nearer. I was trapped. The figure slowly stepped into the faint light, and I felt a rush of cold wash over me. It was tall, too tall, and the shadows seemed to cling to its form, as if afraid to let go. The eyes glowed with a fierce intensity that sent a jolt of fear straight to my core. I took a step back, bumping into the desk behind me, scattering papers across the floor. Panic surged through me. I could barely think. My mind raced as I weighed my options. The only entrance was the staircase behind me, but I quickly dismissed that idea. I couldn't let it get any closer. "Get away from me!" I shouted, desperate. My voice echoed, but the figure didn't flinch. Instead, it moved with an unsettling grace, almost gliding forward, a mix of confidence and hunger in its movements. I glanced around the room, looking for anything I could use as a weapon. There was nothing sharp or heavy, just old chairs and dusty bookshelves. Then I spotted one of those heavy paperweights, the kind shaped like a globe, sitting precariously near the edge of the desk. I lunged for it, gripping it tightly and raising it in front of me like a shield. The figure paused. I could see its mouth slowly stretching into something resembling a smile, but it felt wrong, twisted. Each second felt like an eternity. I was running out of time. "Daniela," I whispered, hoping to trigger something. Something had to click. I was standing in a room filled with the echoes of her past, and the figure might be tied to it. But deep down, I knew this was a risk. I held my breath, waiting. "What do you want?" I demanded, my voice trembling despite my bravado. The figure tilted its head slightly, as if considering my question. Then, slowly, it raised an arm,
and pointed towards the folder on the desk, the one filled with letters and stories. Confusion washed over me. Was it trying to communicate? I hesitated, glancing back at the letters. I could feel the urge to flee trembling in my legs, but I couldn't let this strange encounter end without answers. I took a tentative step toward the desk, the paperweight still firmly clutched in my hand. The figure remained still, its eyes unblinking as I reached for the folder. I flipped through the pages again, each scrawled word pulling me deeper into Daniela's world. That's when I noticed something I hadn't before, a drawing tucked between the letters. It depicted the same figure standing over a child asleep in a dark room. But there was another figure, a silhouette in the background, watching. My breath caught as I read the caption, "The Watcher will always be there." A sudden crash from behind made me jump, and instinctively I turned.
The statue that had once been adorned with a lamp toppled off a shelf, crashing to the ground. I spun back to find the figure had moved closer, its ghastly visage now barely a few feet away. I staggered back, the paperweight slipping from my grasp and hitting the floor with a dull thud. My heart raced, and I felt the air thicken around me. I had to get out. But the staircase was no longer an option, at least not with the figure blocking my only escape. My mind raced. I could hear a soft whispering begin to echo in the room, a haunting melody inviting me to come closer, to give in. And then, just as quickly, it all went dark. I jolted awake, gasping for breath. The cold air clawed at my skin, but I was no longer in the room with the figure. Instead, I found myself lying on a threadbare couch, the walls stained with peeling paint. The faint smell of mildew filled my nostrils. Confusion wrapped around my mind like a thick fog. Where was I? I sat up slowly, my heart still racing. The last thing I remembered was the figure closing in on me, and then nothing. A shift of movement caught my eye, and I turned to see a shadow flitting across the ragged curtains. I squinted, bracing myself for a confrontation. "Hello?" I called out, my voice echoing in the nearly empty space. No response came. I pulled myself to my feet, my pulse thrumming in my ears. The room wasn't large and looked as if it had been abandoned for years. Ripped furniture lay scattered, as though people had left in a hurry. I needed to find a way out. Moving cautiously, I stepped toward the door I could barely make out in the gloom. A sudden creak sounded from behind me, and I fired a glance over my shoulder, heart thudding wildly. Nothing, just the silence of an empty room. I reached the door and turned the knob, but it didn't budge. Panic flared again, urging me to push harder. I pressed my body against the door, the wood creaking under pressure. "Please, let me out!" I cried. Then there was a soft thump from behind. I spun around again. It was then I noticed them. A series of framed photographs scattered on the floor, faces obscured by dust. I dropped to my knees to inspect them. The blurred images revealed children in various poses, smiles frozen in time. But one photo gripped me. It was of a girl, maybe 8 years old, standing next to the same figure I had seen before. The room seemed to chill even more as I took in the details. The girl had an innocent smile, and there was something familiar about her, something that twisted my stomach. My fingers shook as I picked up the photograph. Suddenly, the whispers returned, louder this time, swirling around me like an insistent wind. I backed away, but the whispers weren't just urging me now, they were warning me. My heart raced as I pushed myself to my feet again, desperately searching for a means of escape. The figure was still out there, and now it felt closer, lurking just beyond the edges of my awareness. I glanced at the door again. "Just open!" I shouted, feeling a mix of despair and anger. But the knob remained still. As I pressed my ear against the wood, I could hear the faint sound of my own breath mingling with those malevolent whispers. Then, all at once, the door rattled on its hinges as if something was trying to push through. I stepped back, my eyes darting to the window. I could see dim streetlights outside, but everything felt wrong, surreal, as if I was trapped in some sickness of reality. I had to get to those lights. They had to be my way out. And just like that, the door burst open and the figure stepped through. The moment felt endless, my breath hitching in my throat. It stood there, silhouetted by twilight. I knew one thing for certain now. I couldn't stay any longer. I ran. No thought, no hesitation, just a frantic urge to escape. The figure filled the doorway, a dark mass that inexplicably drew me in. I darted toward the nearby window, desperate to shatter the silence with my breaking, heavy breaths. As I reached the window, I noticed the glass was dirty, but not boarded up. I turned back, glancing one last time at the figure. It was still, watching me with a predatory stillness that ignited my fight-or-flight response. I scrambled to open the window, my fingers trembling against the sill. "What do you want?" I yelled, but the words fell into the void, swallowed by the darkness. Just then, something warm trickled down my wrist. I looked down in horror to see blood welling from a jagged piece of glass I hadn't noticed. I hissed in pain and quickly pulled my hand back. The figure moved, hesitating for a split second before stepping inside the room. I felt dread crawl up my spine. There was no way I could fight this thing, and there was no time to waste. I swiveled back to the window, my heart pounding like a war drum. "Come on," I whispered to myself. "You can do this." With renewed determination, I shoved the window up with both hands. It creaked, but didn't budge far enough. Glancing nervously to my left, I could see the outline of the figure drawing closer. In a desperate attempt, I pushed harder. With a loud crack, the glass slid open enough for me to squeeze through. I could hear the figure's footsteps now, a slow and deliberate approach that sent chills racing down my skin. I was almost there when a hand clutched my ankle, fingers like ice gripping me. I screamed, the noise erupting from my throat without my permission. Panic surged, fueling my adrenaline. I kicked out, feeling flesh meet my foot. The hand loosened, and I propelled myself out of the window, hitting the ground hard outside. The sharpness of the gravel dug into my skin as I rolled. I didn't look back. I scrambled to my feet and sprinted toward the glow of streetlights that illuminated the night. Each step felt both reassuring and fraught with danger. But then I froze. A glint in the nearby bushes caught my eye. I stopped, confusion blossoming in my chest. Something metallic stuck out, a piece of the figure's clothing, or perhaps a relic from my dream. I eased closer, heart pounding. The whispers returned, but they weren't the breath of the figure this time. They seemed almost familiar. I knelt down and reached into the shadows, fingers brushing against cold metal. It was a locket, battered and tarnished, a heart shape. I picked it up, flipping it open. Inside, there was a photo of the girl from the picture. My mind reeled. What did this mean? I felt a sense of urgency swell inside me. I couldn't dismiss what was happening. I had to know if the girl was connected to the figure. Then, dark movement in the corner of my eye snapped me back to reality. The figure was outside the house now, looming against the wall's silhouette. I took a deep breath. Running had only brought me to questions, but the answers I sought lay ahead. And I knew that I had to confront whatever nightmares were chasing me. I sprinted toward the edge of the property, clutching the locket tightly.
The whispers grew louder, pulling at the edges of my mind, filling it with echoes of the past. Shadows lengthened around me as I darted through weeds and brambles, desperate to reach the trees lining the far boundary of the farm. The figure lingered behind me, prowling just beyond the edge of my vision, but I refused to look back. It stretched across the ground like a dark fog, shifting and swirling ominously. The night air felt thick, heavy with anticipation. I could almost hear my own breaths blending with the eager whispers as I neared the trees, where the faint moonlight illuminated a faded path. I had to find out what this locket meant. The girl, it had to be her. Daniela. Was she trapped too? A cold shiver worked its way up my spine. With each step, memories clamored against my consciousness. As I crossed the threshold into the grove, I stumbled upon a clearing illuminated by ghostly moonlight. There were remnants of an old swing set, rusting in stillness, a childhood playground abandoned long ago. In the center, I noticed a dilapidated wooden gazebo, overgrown with vines and surrounded by wildflowers that defied the darkness. This place felt sacred, yet haunted, and it called to me with a haunting urgency. I approached, heart pounding in my chest. The whispers swirled around the structures, beckoning me closer, inviting me into its secrets. I could almost feel Daniela's presence here, wrapped in the memory of laughter and innocence lost. I stepped carefully onto the gazebo's floorboards, which creaked beneath my weight. I held the locket with both hands, trying to summon the courage inside me. "Daniela," I whispered, wanting to feel her spirit nearby, as if she could guide me. The air shifted, and I felt the shadows grow heavier. "What do you want from me?" I called into the night. "Why are you doing this?" I waited, breathless, for a response.
In that moment, the whispers converged into a singular voice, soft yet echoing with the weight of untold sorrow. "Find the truth. Free us." It resonated deeply within me, a plea wrapped in desperation. My fingers fiddled with the locket as I contemplated the words. Suddenly, I recalled the note I found in the folder. "Stay away from the figure. It wants to possess you." The panic that had gripped me before resurfaced. Had I walked into its trap? Just then, the hair on the back of my neck prickled. I turned slowly to see the figure looming at the edge of the clearing. Its inhuman shape twisted in the moonlight, waiting, watching, an ominous presence that filled the air with dread. I took a steadying breath. There was one thing left to do. If the whispers were right, if I could confront the truth, maybe I could find a way to break this cycle of fear. Taking one resolute step forward, I shouted, "What do you want? Why are you haunting me?" The figure seemed to pause, darkness swirling around it, the eyes glinting like stars in a sea of night. For the first time, the air felt heavier with emotion rather than malice. A rush of wind surged through the clearing, rustling the trees, swirling around the gazebo as if an unseen force were trying to speak through me. "Free her," the voice demanded, low and haunting. I realized that the figure wasn't just a tormentor. It was a guardian of memories, part of a tragic tale woven into the history of the girl. "Free her?" I echoed, my voice catching in my throat. "How?" With renewed resolve, I focused on the locket in my palm. It pulsated slightly, a heartbeat connecting me to Daniela's lost energy. "If I free Daniela, will you release me?" The figure tilted its head, eyes glowing brighter. Slowly, I held the locket out, willing the truth to reveal itself. "Show me the way. Let me help you." Suddenly, the world around me shifted again, the gazebo dissolving into a flickering scene. The ground turned to mist as memories flooded my mind. Visions of Daniela and her family, laughter echoing through trees, industry against nightfall.
Then shadows creeping in. A terrible confrontation unfolded before me. A family torn apart, and then a child lost in the struggle. The figure loomed in the backdrop, not as the predator, but as a guardian of the past, haunted by its failure to protect. The weight of sorrow settled on my chest as realization hit me. It wanted to protect the remnants of its family, a cycle of torment born from love turned dark. "Daniela," I whispered, feeling drawn to her essence within the memories. I had to find her, to pull her free from the grasp of despair that still clung to this place. "I will help you, I promise." The mist enveloped me, and a warmth spread through my body as hope lit my heart. Now I understood. I didn't fight or run. I could heal. I could help her find peace. "Take me to her."
I commanded the figure, and as my words left my lips, it turned, leading me deeper into the past. The shadows fluttered around us, whispering truths, while my heart raced with both confidence and trepidation. Then darkness clawed back at me, the connection slipping as I neared the edge of consciousness. I teetered between worlds, longing for the truth, but terrified of what lay ahead. I didn't know what awaited me, but as memories jogged to the surface, one passed through me like an arrow of clarity. I had to confront my own fears to release the truth, and only then could I uncover whether the darkness around me was truly supernatural or simply born from loss. In the chaos of the swirling shadows, I felt Daniela's essence reach for me, and as the world faded into silence, I allowed myself to surrender to the journey ahead, knowing unanswered questions still loomed thick in the air. Would I find her? Would the figure let go? Or would I forever be chased by echoes of the past? I had yet to uncover the fate of that lonely farmhouse, but something deep within said I was finally close to understanding.